So one of the things I want to share with you today is the power of geography to help in perhaps one of the biggest challenges that we're facing in the 21st century, moving towards a more sustainable future. Sustainability is a lexicon of the 21st century. It's a concept that has been introduced and talked about for the last 20 or 30 years, and it's really resonating in the international community, which is why it's so important that we all have a good understanding of what sustainability is and how geographers can contribute to a more sustainable future. So sustainability as a concept has been around for centuries, but in the modern era, really given a kind of a solid, well, not a very solid, a solid definition in 1987 when the United Nations published its report called Our Common Future. And it was really a set of experts that came together from various diverse fields, and they looked at issues around poverty, human health, and environmental degradation. And they concluded two really important things. The first was development as an idea, and as it was being practiced at the time, it wasn't working. It wasn't sustainable in the long term. And the second conclusion they came to was that we really needed a new idea around sustainable development. And so that they introduced this term sustainable development, and they defined it as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. It's since become the global standard of sustainability, and it was a good start, but kind of a vague definition. So it might be a little bit more useful to think about and conceptualize sustainability as the intersection of what is called the 3 E's. 1 E is environment, protecting the environment, using resources wisely, and maintaining resource availability for the future generations. The second E is economics, not just eradicating poverty, but allowing people economic opportunities for a fulfilling life. The third E is oftentimes referred to as equity, social equity. That is not just social justice, but good human health and well-being. Where sustainability happens is where these 3 E's overlap. So for example, protecting the rainforest by removing an indigenous community from that area is not sustainability. We took a while to go from the idea of sustainable development as introduced in 1987 to really taking action on sustainability. And perhaps our first kind of area that we really began to see implementation of sustainability occurred in 2000, when the United Nations launched its Millennium Development Goals. These were a set of 8 goals that were really a challenge to achieve by 2015. And it was an idea, an agenda of 8 pressing issues that the international community agreed on needed to be prioritized. So eradicating hunger and poverty, achieving educational outcomes, promoting gender equality, reducing both child and maternal mortality, combating HIV/AIDS and other diseases, and working towards environmental responsibility and sustainability. The great news is that we made a tremendous amount of progress by 2015, but most countries did not achieve most of these goals. And there was a sense that we needed to continue to work on this as an international community. And so in 2015, the United Nations launched a new action agenda called the Sustainable Development Goals. Some of them are familiar from the Millennium Development Goals, some of them are much newer and expansive. It's a really big and ambitious agenda that consists of 17 goals, and within each of the goals are a series of targets that countries are challenged to meet. The idea is that these are 17 goals that really embody the 3 E's of sustainability. So for example, SDG number 1, no poverty, SG number 8, good jobs and economic growth. Those really kind of speak to the economic side of the 3 E's. Good health, SDG number 3, SDG number 4, quality education, and SDG number 5, gender equality, resonate with, for example, social equity. And then there's a lot of environmental goals here with number 7, renewable energy, SDG 13, climate change, 14 and 15, life on land and life on water. So the really interesting thing about these goals and why they're so important is because it's the global consensus on how we achieve a more sustainable, just future. It's become the priority area for international investment, both public and private. And it's one of the reasons why I think we have some optimism about the world, because there are all these goals, and 193 countries around the world have pledged to try and achieve these goals by 2030. So as a geographer, I'm excited because I know we have some unique skills and the ability to really help further and advance those sustainable development goals. I'm going to talk to you about the 3 interesting ways that I see geographers as providing really useful information, methods, and analysis for helping with the SDG outcome. The first is we're spatial thinkers. You've heard a lot about spatial thinking today. The second is that we really are one of the few disciplines that really integrates human-environment interactions. And the third is I want to talk a little bit about scale. So I want to start first with spatial thinking. As you've heard today, geographers ask where are things happening a lot. And because we ask where are things happening, it also leads to questions about why things are happening in one place and not other places. We're also very adept at taking a lot of data and beginning to visualize that and beginning to understand and figure out patterns and processes. And oftentimes when we take big sets of data or complex data and we visualize it, one of our products is a map, right? So I couldn't help but make a Game of Thrones reference. Let me give you a historical example. It's 1854 and the city of London is experiencing a massive cholera epidemic, right? At the time, most experts thought that diseases were spread by the foul miasmas in the air. But one man, John Snow, not Jon Snow of Winterfell, that Jon Snow, he thought differently. He thought that there might be a connection between contaminated dirty water and the spread of cholera. So he began to ask his patients, where do you get your water? Where do you live? What were you doing the few days before you got sick? He took that kind of data and he overlaid it on a map of London's streets. And on top of that, he put a layer that showed where the different water wells were, the drinking wells. And he began to see that pattern. He noticed that most of the cholera cases seemed to cluster around one single drinking well, the Broad Street pump. He couldn't convince London's health officials to actually shut down the drinking well, so he had to go out himself and break the arm of the pump off. And within a couple of days, the cholera epidemic had begun to subside. So that's spatial thinking that not only transformed our world and our understanding of disease, it was also a great first example of using GIS. So what does spatial thinking look like when we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals? Well, let's take the example of SDG number 1, trying to eradicate poverty. There are about 760 million people that, according to the World Bank, are poor. They are making less than $2 a day. So we have a lot of people that we have to bring up from poverty if we're going to achieve SDG number 1. One of the things we need to know is where are those 760 million people, right? One way we can do that is to measure poverty, is to also look at a proxy for poverty, which is looking at income. So this is a table that is showing you GDP per capita, or generally average income. And the table on the left is showing you the 10 richest countries in the world, with Qatar with about $146,000 per person. And on the right, you're looking at the 10 poorest countries, with the Central African Republic making about $640 per person. That's a big wealth gap still, right? And of course, you want to remember that in the Central African Republic, there are probably a lot of people making less than $640 a year. Now imagine if we're going to take all 193 countries and create a big spreadsheet or a table, we would have a really hard time seeing patterns and trends. Things wouldn't be in alphabetical order, they wouldn't be in geographical order, except for geographers can take that kind of data And they can create spatial outcomes by looking at something like this map of income. So this map of an income is kind of the story of uneven development, of uneven outcomes in wealth, right? Dark green countries are among the wealthiest, light yellow and orange countries are among the poorest. So being able to think spatially about poverty helps us to know where should we intervene the most? Where should our resources, our limited resources, be put to best use if we're really serious about eradicating poverty? Let's take SDG number 2, ending hunger, zero hunger. Once again, there's about 800 million people, almost 1 billion people hungry on this planet. But we can't end hunger if we don't know where they are, right? So this is a global map of hunger. Countries listed in blue are countries that are pretty food secure, but countries that are in red and maroon are some of the most food insecure countries on the planet. In some cases, those maroon countries, like Chad, 1 out of every 3 people is hungry. Right? So being able to map this outcome, to map the data that we have, helps us, again, to know where our intervention should take priority. Toggle back to the map on poverty, and many of the countries that are on our poorest, that come out with poorest levels of income are also some of our hungriest, right? So now we see a correlation between hunger and poverty. And the interaction between hunger and poverty is a really big challenge. To solve both SDGs means we have to integrate our efforts and our responses. Our second skill as geographers is the human-environmental connections. We've got a long, rich history of looking at and understanding how human activities have changed the landscape. Whether we're altering the natural flow of rivers, chopping down trees, terracing the hills for agriculture, or having the audacity to build islands out of nothing in the middle of the Persian Gulf, human activities are changing the physical environment of this planet. Perhaps you've heard that term Anthropocene. It's kind of a recent term that's had a lot of currency lately. It really refers to this notion that humans are impacting the Earth's physical systems, atmospheric, geologic, hydrologic, and because of our human activities, in particular the burning of fossil fuels, that this has had a huge impact and is changing the planet dramatically in many places around the world. Which makes us, particularly as geographers, a good discipline to look at climate change, right? SDG 13, trying to take action on climate, is probably one of our most pressing issues. And yet, as geographers, we approach understanding climate change not only as human-environmental interactions, but also as the uneven impacts that climate change may have. Change is not going to be the same everywhere, right? We're probably going to see more fierce winds, winters in Minnesota, and more hurricanes in Florida, more wildfires out west in California. And these are going to be costly. It's estimated that last year alone, the US lost $90 billion in disasters. So understanding kind of where some of these climate impacts, what types of climate impacts, whether we're talking about where will we see hotter summers, where will we see more rain, or where will we see drought, these are important geographic results and consequences of climate change. And some geographers who are particularly skilled in the techniques have been doing some great climate modeling. And here, for example, showing you a very compelling and perhaps scary image of what might happen to lower Manhattan should there be an 8-foot level in sea rise. So being able to visualize change, being able to kind of understand where change is going to happen is a really big part of how geographers can contribute to a lot of the work that's going to go on with climate change. And the last thing that geographers have a skill at is looking at scale. And we've heard a little bit of that today. But I want you to think of scale as the Russian nesting dolls. The big doll is the global picture, right? The next doll down in size are regions like North America, Sub-Saharan Africa. The next doll down in size from that is a country, Brazil, the United States, and so on until we get to the tiniest doll, which might be your neighborhood. Geographers are really good at taking one process or one trend and being able to look at it in the context of scale. So let's think about climate change. Many of you probably remember this last winter when we had a wobbling polar vortex that dumped very cold temperatures on the Midwest. Minneapolis was minus 27. And we had some conversation about where was climate change, where was global warming when we have such cold temperatures. Well, if you don't know how to look and appreciate scale, you might be tempted to think that this refutes the notion of climate change. But actually, if we scale out to the rest of the United States, LA was a balmy 62 that day. And if we look at scale and go all the way out to the global picture, the entire southern hemisphere was experiencing record heat. It's 105 degrees in Sydney, Australia on the same day it was minus 27 in Minneapolis. So understanding scale and having the ability to go from the local to the national, to the regional, to the global, and back again is a really important part of understanding really complex global change and dynamics. Let me revisit scale in hunger. Because this map that I put up before, I hinted that, the United States comes across as a blue country, a fairly food secure country. But if we think about scale, it's really an important part of the hunger picture, because in fact, there are 30 million Americans who are hungry, right? We have some work to do in this country on almost all the SDGs. One of the things that we've discovered is that geographers have thought outside of the box very creatively. They've taken information about where people live in relationships to their access to grocery stores. And they've come up with a concept called a food desert, which is defined as an area that has a lack of access to healthy and affordable food. This is a map of the city of Chicago, and all those green areas are places where people don't have access to healthy and nutritious foods. Those green areas are food deserts. And I bet a lot of people who are living in those green areas are some of our hungry. So by doing this, we've given the city of Chicago some incredibly important tools. They now know where they can put some of their resources to fight hunger. They now know where they might want to try and incentivize grocery store chains to open up in some of these neighborhoods. So being able to kind of see scale allows us to dig a little deeper than that bigger picture of the United States being a fairly wealthy and food secure country. All of that is to say that this is not your parents' geography. This is not even your grandparents' geography. This is geography in the 21st century. It's exciting, it's cool. We have the ability to help solve some of the most critical problems on this planet, right? We think spatially. We understand and want to understand the relationship between human activity and the environment. We think of scale, and these three skills are in huge demand right now. There are many jobs out there for young people that can think spatially, that can do some of our mapping, that can appreciate scale and analyze scale and connect it back to human-environment interactions. So when we're thinking about some of the ways in which we can make a better community, we can make a better world, getting to sustainability and reaching and achieving those sustainable development goals is so critical, and I know that geographers are going to be right front and center helping us advance sustainability. Thank you.
Progress.
Okay, welcome everyone. So another opportunity, another time for young people to address the most important issues that affect us. I can see everyone here on the screen. So of course, you notice the usual platform we use. With this one, you can basically have the entire feature of Zoom at your end. You can unmute, you can mute, you can use your video and every other feature entirely. I welcome each and every one of us to another day. It's been a while that we saw. For those of us rather that are just joining us and just wondering what are they talking about with all of this Zero Carbon Africa Impact Program. And we basically are a group from a fellowship. I know what fellowships are. It basically an entity, a program that is organized to address a particular type of issues. So you have fellowship for HIV, you have fellowships for climate change, fellowships for environmental sciences, in diverse ways. But ours is such that we are looking to raise over 1,000 of us in our respective communities from Kenya and Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda, Zambia, Ghana, and Nigeria. Together we are really emerging economy or well-established economies, and we are able to change the course of things in our local spaces. So the fellowship as a whole has been on since in the last, so let's say since over 10 weeks. And we've been going through a lot of things from how climate change is affecting human rights, the interconnections, and we had a very interesting time with our last facilitator, Ifeanyi Mohaneri, and we actually learned how these issues actually come and actually interact with themselves. We heard terms like human rights risk assessments. We had human rights due diligence. Most of these terms are trying to explore how anthropological activities can directly or indirectly infringe on the rights of people to access health, access their traditional way of life. I mean, you can imagine in many of these places where in Africa, new industries, the extractive industries are emerging, and it's almost common knowledge that wherever you see an extractive industry, communities around there almost turn out to be worse in terms of the quality of life they live and all of that. And we are looking for how, in our space as scientists, as researchers, as citizens, we can, discuss these issues and then come up with innovative ways of tackling them, whether you want to tackle them from advocacy, or you want to tackle them from activism, or want to tackle them from the science, and then most importantly, align people in the local community, people that as a result of this human rights infringement, their lands have been taken, their lives have been disrupted, and they really don't understand. And if it's not directly from the extractive industry, they see the changes that happen when they cannot attend to their livelihood as they would usually do, and they really don't understand. So it's on us to be able to convey this information in an easily digestible manner that our grandparents, our parents, our children can actually interact with. And it also led us to this program where, after we've learned so many things in the course of 8 weeks, we thought of something that we can do for the public. And so we also thought about a program as this where we can so everybody is talking about how can we tackle waste, how can we interact, deal with the issues of waste. And you would see online so many things that young people have been able to do, from just being resourceful, from the cleanups to using waste to generate electricity, to using waste to power schools and do many innovative stuffs. And unfortunately, it seems like Africa or some communities in Africa are not able to catch up because of their pressing need. Of course, you need to eat most times before you think of some other things. So it's on us to bring this awareness to the public. It's on us to kind of make it mainstream. I remember there was a time in Nigeria where mental health was more in the periphery. Now it's a complete, it's part of the health system. So if we can also make sure that these issues happen to us every day, a 5 minutes rain can disrupt business for a lot of people in Lagos, and I'm sure that the same thing happens in South Africa and in many our cities that are really not prepared for climate change, and it's happening. But I think it's almost an African thing, and I also not say that an African thing. We just kind of relinquish it to the God factor, and unfortunately, when these things happen, it always look like a surprise, but we should have been more prepared. Today, I'm sure that our facilitator is somewhere around the corner, and but before I do that, so a quick recap: the video we just watched on YouTube was actually trying to it's on purpose just to usher us into or bring more like a preface into what will be going on about tomorrow, which is how small businesses can adapt or adopt the power of geospatial technology to deal with their issues. Of course, just like I mentioned, the knowledge of geography. I'm not even a geography expert, right? And I'm not even close to, but I see how just having a geographic information like your weather forecast for the day can help you know if it's right to plan your meeting that day or you move it to another day. And I feel that if more people take advantage of the current science and the advancements in technology to if they can kind of harness those information in health, right, in commerce, in agriculture, in industry, it's a step in the right direction. It's us trying to be a resilient community in the face of climate change. And without much ado anymore, our facilitator for today will be delving into some aspects of waste to wealth, which is basically a concept where you look in terms of what is called a circular economy, not just cradle to the grave where there's you go to the market, you buy something, or you take a raw material, you produce something. At the end of the day, it just goes on and it becomes a waste. We are looking for how, in the face of the unemployment, high unemployment in many of our communities, in the face of the waste that is almost overwhelming the city, you can use this waste to you kind of empower yourselves, introduce waste management techniques that can generate income for your community, for your families. And I think we can be the better for it. Our facilitator today is no one but Maury. Yeah, our facilitator today is no one but Maury Magor. Just a second. But in order not to sound, to make this session sound like a monologue, can I hear? Yeah, okay. Can I give I think 2 or 3 of us an opportunity to speak to the topic that we have today. Basically, is on waste to wealth, leveraging opportunities in the green and the blue economy. I know a lot of us are already deep into this space and already doing fantastic stuff. I can see some of us already on Instagram and all of that, social media advertising and doing a lot of marketing, using bamboos to do amazing stuff, using the pure water sachet to do amazing stuff, using worn out tires and all of these interesting things. I saw a gazebo the other day, and so many interesting stuff. So if you'd like to speak, you can use your the raise hand feature and just go on to let us know if you're in the field and how you feel about using waste to generate wealth. Okay. Yes. Let's have Amede Olisa to do this. Hi, Amede.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
I'm sorry I can't put on my video. I'm actually in a marketplace. I just thought I should look for a good corner to log into the meeting. So I wanted to share my experiences on growing vegetables without having to own a land and using the plastic waste to grow the vegetables by putting organic waste like chicken compost and stuff inside water and using your party cups and the plastics that have been thrown away and just water. So that's what we use to grow lots of bags of cucumbers that were sold in the market a few months ago. And that was just for, the cycle was 45 days and they came out looking very lovely, nothing different from the normal cucumbers that you sell, and that's for vegetables. I've also done mushroom farming, which you use sawdust and rice bran. And some people that we've taught how to farm mushrooms don't actually need to buy they don't buy the sawdust because the sawdust from the wood places are thrown away. And the rice bran is what you use in bags, cement bags. And if you notice, a lot of builders now sell cement bags, but before they used to throw them away. So now cement bags are now an essential commodity because they now know that people are farming with them. So I also farm mushroom using waste plastic buckets that you put holes on them and the mushrooms come up from there and we harvest them. And the mushrooms make close to 50 to 70% returns on your investment, more profits than cucumbers and vegetables. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amede. Thank you so much. And it's really nice that you found a time in your schedule to join us. Of course, and we have heard how she's been able to use different techniques to be able to make sure that there's food all around, whether it's is looking for ways to increase the crop yield through organic, farming, or looking for all manner of, ways that they call reducing the tillage factor by using non-soil techniques. And it's really, really amazing. I mean, some of the things that I see online and some of the things that we're able to do. I think if we can do this more, you realize that we live healthier. We can even grow our personal income even much more than waiting for So I mean, that's how I feel about most of these things. Let's see if we have another person that can
I also
tell
wanted
us
to
what they're
add to
doing.
what you said. A lot of people make excuses about not having water and stuff like that. So the first question I ask during our training sessions is, how many people here have not taken a bath with water before coming out? And nobody puts up their hands. So if you have water to take a bath, it means that you have water that you could put in a plastic and grow your cucumbers. So that's basically the idea, because people think you have to wait for the rains. You don't need to wait for rains anymore. There is no season for growing food. That's the new gold, if you ask me, really.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. I mean, if you keep your eyes open, you see that many of these opportunities actually do exist. So right about now, I'm going to open the floor for our facilitator. Our facilitator is
Hello, Shomo.
yes.
Hello, guys.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Good afternoon,
Mari.
everyone.
Yeah.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, good
afternoon.
afternoon. Are you able to share your video, even if it's just for a brief minute, so that we see that, and I can also do that from my end here, so that it doesn't look like so nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, can you see me?
I can see you. Can you see
Can
me?
everyone see me? Yes, I can see you. Yeah, you actually look like a silhouette here, but it's all good. It's all good. Thank you. It's nice to have you join us. So I'm going to be doing this right now. Just a brief second. So, and for our information, Maury has actually been very nice to do this on our behalf. Because it's also the first of its kind, she's been very nice and very kind to volunteer to do this facilitation. Basically, Maury has had is extensively trained in project planning and management. Specifically, he has had in-depth training and experience over 9 years in monitoring and evaluation of programs, capacity development of CSOs, strategic planning and execution, project management and evaluation. He has in-depth knowledge of current developments, approaches and trends, issues and debates at grassroots, national, regional, and global levels. With respect to diversity, he's a team leader and player with good interpersonal skills and ability, and to establish and maintain effective working relationship with others. Without much ado, I'd like to welcome Maury. Hi, Maury again. I know that this bio is not doing justice to exactly what you do, because after now I like to play a video for our viewers, just to have a feel of what you do. But I'd like you to in 1 minute, basically, or less, introduce yourself to this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shogo. Like you said, my name is Murray Woodward. I'm Executive Director at Keep Capital and Program Manager at Boga Delivery. So this is a project that specifically touches on issues to do with capacity development, issues to do with, we also support young entrepreneurs in monitoring and evaluation projects.
Sorry, Mago.
Yes.
Apologize. I thought I was the only one. I'm actually getting an echo, some kind of interference with your audio. Is it possible for you to use the? Are you using an headphone or
I'm using
earphone or something?
Yes, I'm using earphones. Yeah.
Okay, because it's actually echoing, so it's not allowing the audio to be very clear.
Is it clear now?
Can you say that again?
Is it clear now?
Yeah, it is. Then maybe you just also increase the volume, maybe just I'm sure we can do that, probably just amplify your voice a bit, so that it's clearer. And we can go.
So like I was just introducing myself, my name is Murray Woodward. I'm the Executive Director of an organization called Keep Capital, a project manager for our
program. Sorry, it's actually still echoing.
Still echoing? Let me just close the door. Just give me a minute. Let me close the door because we are doing some manufacturing here at the workshop.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want this session to really be very, very clear. So, but why he joining? Let me use the opportunity to play one of the videos.
I hope it's better now.
Please say that again.
I hope this is better now.
Yes, it's better. Yeah, it's better. I think it's manageable.
Okay. So I was saying I'm a project manager for a program called Boga Delivery. So this program specifically highlights issues of capacity development of organizations. We also support young entrepreneurs in monitoring and evaluation of programs and proposal writing and reporting. So I guess that's my specialty. And today, I just, like you said, we'd like to highlight leveraging opportunities in green and blue economy. And as one of our participants, Amede, has mentioned, climate smart agriculture, in my opinion, is the silver bullet towards transforming agricultural food systems, towards empowering livelihoods, and also addressing the issue of the waste generally. So in this session, I think we'll capture the program from 4 perspectives. We'll look at the global context, whereby because at the end of the day, waste management is a business and any business operates in a policy framework. So we'll address issues of the global context and the policy framework in the global context, the regional context, and the local context to specific countries. So without further ado, we can start. In the global context, we are all aware of the Paris Agreement, which is a legally binding international treaty on climate change. It was adopted by 196 parties at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, that was COP21 in Paris, France, on 12 December 2015. It entered into force on 4th November 2016. So the Paris Agreement specifically has a goal that is to increase the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius below pre-industrial levels and pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees to industrial levels. So most countries are adapting to this Paris Agreement, and under the Paris Agreement, there has existed several agreements within the parties. That is the national determined contributions. When a country is ratified the agreement unless they decided to submit a new national determined contribution that highlights exactly its tools for implementing the Paris Agreement and legally binding. So Article 3 and 4 of the Paris Agreement requires parties to prepare and communicate their national development contributions with updates with every year that should be more ambitious than the previous year. Are you getting me now, Shoto?
I'm actually really struggling with the audio. But it should be something we can fix, quickly. So while you work on the audio, let me allow the listeners have a feel of what you do. Just a second. So, yeah, can everyone see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can see my screen. Yeah, is my screen visible?
It is visible, yes.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. So I'll just go through these 3 video clips, and then you can you kind of speak to the videos, and then give us a view or your view on how we can use waste and then convert it to waste wealth essentially. So please just stay tuned, and let's just see how this works. I'm sorry about the thickness of the video or the audio.
Sasa.
So basically, what has happened is that the first video was trying to take us through how plastic waste is reduced into pellets, and that pellet is being processed. Basically, the colored and everything, reinforced and then converted into this sustainable product. I'll these videos all over again so that we can just follow from here.
Then you should
All right. So okay, you have finished products.
Wow.
All
Sasa.
how this is done. All right, thank you very much. So at least I'm sure that you get something from the video. Would of course make this video also available to people. So basically, hello, Ori.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that video.
All right. So take us through that process. So we started with black looking materials, and we ended up with this solid frame, basically. And you also said that you can use plastic to make chairs and, to do other things. So we would like to know how, the process comes about, how can we go from waste, plastic as waste to plastic as a resource for interior decoration, other amazing things.
We just start from the beginning. And as you're all aware, since the onset of COVID-19, we realized that there was a lot of youth who are losing their jobs and who are not employable due to lack of skills and lack of the restricting job market. So we saw a need there. Then it came about the Ukraine war, whereby as much as most youth wanted to get into agriculture, there was challenges in terms of importation of fertilizers and grains all over the world. So with the accelerated climate crisis, we saw a need whereby we saw that we could recycle this. We saw a lot of waste lying around, especially in urban areas. And we thought to ourselves that why can't we leverage on the available waste, create jobs for the youth, address the social deficit as well as the environmental challenges. So what you've just seen in the video is one of our processing centers whereby we work with several youth groups and women groups organizations in terms of cleanups of urban cities. We collect this waste. The waste is therefore cleaned, dried, and as you saw the pallets, the plastic pallets where the waste is chopped into tiny bits and then melted in the extruder. There's a machine called the extruder whereby the plastic, or rather the plastic pallets are heated, melted, and now converted through different molds to desirable products for both households and institutions. So the end results, sometimes we factor in issues to do with, we have a technology called aquaponics, whereby it involves soilless farming. So we make pipes with this recycled waste. We also have furniture for both households and institutions, specifically schools, whereby we are trying to eliminate issues of deforestation, whereby a lot of people resort to cutting trees to make their timber and furniture. So we are giving them a solution. And also this waste has come to us in a very good time, whereby there's issues, challenges with water. We're also making interlocking bricks, which can be used for construction, and roofing tiles, which is a substitute for bricks, whereby we really trying to advocate for minimum land disturbance. So these bricks can be used for construction, and they're very efficient, very low cost bricks, minimizing on our water usage as well. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's what the program really touches on, both addressing the social deficit, whereby creating green jobs, and also addressing the environmental challenge in terms of reducing waste in our environment. So this also has supported us to ensure that our carbon sinks work, because you're aware that the soil carbon is very vital, and specifically climate smart agriculture, whereby our aquaponics technology is addressing. And also, like the participant has said, we can produce throughout the year, ensuring food security, and at the same time addressing the issues of environment. So I'll just go on, as I was saying, in terms of the regional context of the policy framework. We are looking at the Nairobi Declaration on Climate Change and Call to Action, whereby there's several concerns in the Nairobi Declaration. And despite Africa having an estimated 40% of the world's renewable energy resources, only 60 billion, or 2% of the US 3 trillion renewable energy investment in the last decade have come to Africa. So we're also looking at ways we can leverage on this waste and channel it toward renewable energy. The declaration also reiterates Africa's readiness to create an enabling environment, enact policies, and facilitate investments necessary to unlock resources to meet our own climate commitments and contribute meaningfully to decarbonization of the global economy. So through this waste, we are creating an enabling environment, and we are working with the relevant policy bodies within our country to ensure that we facilitate investments necessary to unlock resources that meet our own commitments in terms of our national determined commitments and contribute meaningfully to decarbonizing the continent as a whole. The declaration in Nairobi also further recognizes the critical importance of oceans in climate action and commitments made on ocean sustainability in multiple fora, such as Second UN Oceans Conference in 2022 and the Moroni Declaration for Ocean and Climate Action in Africa in 2023. As you are aware, this plastic really affects our lives in the sea, and through this we are hoping that we are also touching on the blue economy and enhancing the blue economy and also creating jobs for people at the coastal region. The Nairobi Declaration also emphasizes that Africa possesses both potential and ambition to be a vital component of the global solution to climate change. As a home of the world's youngest and fastest growing workforce, coupled with massive untapped renewable energy potential, abundant resource assets, and an entrepreneurial spirit. As we are saying, we are leveraging on this waste, creating more jobs for the youth and women who are also in this space. So we work with women. Our waste is not just plastic, so we focus specifically on plastic because of the impact on the environment. But as we are aware that organic waste also contributes highly to greenhouse gas emissions. Because at the end of the day, all these living organisms have carbon in them, and as organic waste is decomposes, then there's a high emission rate, even more than the plastic that we are talking about. So there's a program that we are looking at that is called Scala. Scala basically touches on scaling up ambition and land use and agriculture. So Scala is a 5-year program funded by the German International Climate Initiative that supports 12 countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America to build adaptive capacity and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to meet targets set in their national adaptation plans and nationally determined contribution. So the nationally adaptive plans and nationally determined contributions are starting points. These are starting points for all countries, and the Scala program is designed to flow flexibility so that priority activities can be customized to national context, which align with the program's theory of change. So like we said, we are aware that different countries require different approaches to tackling the waste issue. So the main objective of the Scala program is to enhance capacity in order to identify and appraise innovative and transformative climate-sensitive agriculture and land use actions in our nationally determined contributors. The Scala has 3 main objectives, and the second one is to strengthen national and sectoral plans and budgets in order to integrate agriculture and land use sectors in climate-related priorities. And our third objective of the Scala program is to increase climate action in agriculture and land use through stronger mobilization of private sector engagement and finance. So coming to the local context, whereby each country has their own national adaptation plan and nationally determined contribution, while a clear opportunity exists to streamline and leverage NDCs and NAB processes to improve adaptation planning and action. The starting point for doing so may be entirely clear if we understand each country, or rather population in each country, understand their NDC adaptation components as setting out high-level vision, objectives, and needs a country hopes to address through its adaptation efforts. So adaptation should resonate with the national action plans, which are for us in Kenya specifically is to enhance climate change resilience toward the attainment of Vision 2030. We have a specific goal that was stipulated in our SDGs, and Kenya has a Vision 2030. And it's very important to recognize that all sectors are vulnerable as long as we keep experiencing the climate change. And on issues of mitigation specifically, we are, according to the Paris Agreement, whereby each country we voted to cut down global emissions down to 45% by 2030 and net zero by 2040. So we are looking at 6 sectors specifically, that is agriculture, forestry, energy, transport, industrial processes and products use, and waste management. This is subject to international support. So according to our own analysis as a country, and we see that electricity generation, energy demand, transportation, agriculture, industrial processes, and waste are the main contributors of the greenhouse gas emissions. Is there a question, please?
Yeah, so a quick one. I was going to say that, so more importantly, and of course, thank you so much for, for taking us through some of those, processes and the plans of the organizations. So for every one of us, if you have, questions as regarding how you can convert waste to wealth, or you want to increase your understanding about what the blue economy is, what the green economy is, and what kind of opportunities you can get, this is a forum where you can get answers to those questions. And if you have specific questions for our facilitator based on his projects, this is also the opportunity. But quickly, because of time, we would like to know, right? So we've watched a video where plastics are being converted to products. You mentioned that you mentioned aquaponics, you mentioned hydroponics and all of that. So can you the first question I want to ask is, if anyone on this call wants to go into using waste, plastic waste, specifically, then converting it and then actually using this plastic waste for business, right? Just like we've watched in the video, is there a checklist? What do they need to do? Are there specific kind of plastic that they need to watch out for? Are there specific agencies? And really, what do they really need to do? Do you just go out in the morning and you just collect plastics and then basically, if it's so possible, we would like a breakdown of that process, because one of the things that we want to take out of this session is to give people the opportunity or to bring to their awareness the possibility of making a life or a livelihood from waste. So for us on this call, what can we do, basically, to harness this waste, the plastic waste now, just like we've seen?
Thank you so much. Like any other project, waste management is a business, and like any other business, you have to really do your market intelligence, market research, that is transforming information into knowledge and your knowledge into strategy. So for us, or rather for this program specifically, what we are doing is we look at what we can work with, and that is we employ bootstrapping approaches, like looking around our environment, because not everyone lives in urban areas and not everyone lives in rural areas. So the kind of waste you find in urban areas is mostly plastic waste, and the kind of waste you find in rural areas could be organic waste. So we like to say that you can work with what you have. So if you have plastic, then you can look at plastic. If you have organic waste, then you can work with organic waste. And specifically for these plastics, what we do is we take the waste, and that is, like I said, we work with different youth and women organizations throughout the country. So we collect this waste, and we first of all we teach our volunteers on importance of segregating the waste. As much as we all understand that waste around us, but like I said, it's important to segregate this waste into plastic waste, into organic waste, into as well as electronic waste. So depending on the kind of waste you have, then that is what you can work with. So for us, this specifically is plastic waste. We clean this waste. The waste is further chopped into tiny pieces, and there are actually companies who specialize in. You can specialize yourself as an entrepreneur. So people actually buy the plastic pellets. You don't have people also specialize in extruder machines, whereby you see an organization specifically investing in an extruder machine, whereby they buy specifically the pallets, ready-made pallets, and now melt it, or rather convert it through the extruder to their desirable products. Like I said, it's also based on the market approach. So you have to analyze your market trends. If your market is more demanding on urban farmers, then you can employ the aspect of climate smart agriculture. If you have a high demand for furniture, then you can incorporate an aspect of furniture. If you have a high demand for building materials, then you can look at ways in which you can leverage that into producing what the market requires. So specifically for us, we work with those specific products, that is building materials. We really, because our country at this point, we are working, because you also look at policies. The policy framework should guide you. Like for us in Kenya, we are really accelerating the affordable housing program. So therefore, for us, we are looking at interlocking bricks. Like I said, these bricks really leverage on saving water, at the same time, less disturbance on the soil. In Kenya, we are also having an ambitious target of food security. So we can work with urban, we can bring the farm to the urban centers, whereby to ensure zero hunger, we adopt this technology and sensitize communities to adopting this technology, so that they can also leverage on planting their own produce, no matter where they are. Because actually, aquaponics, you can grow from anywhere, and this technology can even go to the moon. So we are also ambitious enough to advise farmers to incorporate these technologies and ensure their livelihoods are secure, and ensure their food security is ensured, and also mitigate cross-cutting issues like gender, education, yes, and climate change in general. So the priority mitigation activities in line with the national determined contributions include increasing of renewables in the electricity generation mix of the national grid, because as you are aware, this waste can also generate electricity, and this is something I'm sure most of us are aware of. We are also looking to enhance of energy resources efficiency across different sectors. We are also looking at ways we can decarbonize our cities through electric cars, through electric motorcycles and things like that. We're also looking at how we can make progress towards achieving tree cover of at least 10% of the land area within our region. So through adopting this plastic waste and converting it, that means less deforestation. This is also both an adaptive mechanism and a mitigating mechanism. And this increases forest cover, because there's less demand for wood and wood products. So we are looking at clean, efficient, and sustainable energy technologies to reduce our reliance on fossil and unsustainable biomass fuel. So with this technology also, we are looking at ways, as you can see, there's also technology on green organic waste management, whereby we're looking at ways we can adopt organic waste and factor in issues of black soldier flies. Black soldier flies, as you are aware, in the dairy sector, or rather in the livestock industry, feeds are the biggest challenge. So if you can incorporate black soldier fly, supporting the agricultural sector as a whole, low carbon and efficient transportation systems, climate smart agriculture, strategy and efficient livestock management, and basically sustainable management systems. Like I said, in this country specifically, we are guided by the Constitution. We have the Climate Change Act, and now we have the National Climate Change Action Plan, or rather NCAP, which is also a very nice policy framework for us. Specific policies and legislation like Water Act, Disaster Risk Financial Strategy, Climate Agriculture Strategy are also very important in terms of entrepreneurs who want to align and want to focus on waste management, specifically water management. And also, if you are interested in commercializing agriculture, then I feel this is a very nice area for you to adapt in. So in terms of aligning your strategy with governments, we are looking at here in Kenya specifically, we have county governments as part of national governments, then we have county governments, and the county governments is where most vulnerable people, or rather most vulnerable youths are, and due to lack of opportunities, first of all, and we can also leverage on climate change to address shared responsibility between national and county government, creating decent jobs, mainstream climate change into county functions where impact is felt the most. Each county rather, has an integral development plan and county sectoral plans, which identify tools for mainstreaming climate change action into development sectors. Designated, you can work with designated county members who coordinate climate change affairs. You can also enact legislation that further defines implementation of obligations under your Climate Change Act. And yes, reporting remains very important towards the implementation of climate change actions, both quarterly, annually, and monthly if you can. Because at the end of the day, measuring progress is very key. And through the NCAP, which is a tool encourages the mainstreaming and of adaptation and mitigation actions across sectors and levels of government in climate change processes. So the NCAP in this country has specific priority areas that touches on disaster risk management, issues of flood and drought management, food security and nutrition. So these are areas whereby youth specifically can look at. So you can be an expert in disaster risk management. You can be an expert in food and nutrition security. You can be an expert in water and the blue economy. You can be an expert in forestry, ecosystems, wildlife and tourism sector. You can be an expert in health, sanitation, human settlements, including resilient buildings, which I was talking about earlier through our adoption of interlocking bricks made from recyclable material. You can be an expert in manufacturing. You can be an expert in energy and transportation. You can also be an expert in of mobilizing youth participation, because as much as we are talking about all this area, we've also identified like the youth as a critical area in driving these changes. So there are different enablers towards realization of these targets. And one of them, as I highlighted before, was an enabling policy and regulatory framework. Technology and innovation is also a very strong enabler, and specifically for the youth who are IT savvy. Most of us have mobile phones. You can leverage on technology, leverage on social media, leverage on applications that are relevant to you. Just see how you can also empower others through these processes. Capacity development and knowledge management has also been a huge enabler toward realization of this goal. Is there a question? Okay, like I was saying, there are different enablers, and capacity development and knowledge management.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know that I was still muted. So there's a question in the chat.
Yes.
So someone is asking, Eugene Kofi Odame, is asking, is there any action that deliberately equips individuals with the real-time skills and technical expertise in the area of waste to resource, apart from creating awareness? So actually buttress this question, from the video we watched, we noticed that there are different processes, right, in converting waste. So for instance, in converting plastic waste these products, right? Is there a specific kind of skill that you have to go for, apprenticeship, something, what do we have to do to be able to get this skill? Is there something like that? Did you go through something like that, or does your academy, provide something like that?
Exactly. So we've realized that through our programs that mentorship is a very important process here. So as much as there's aspects of innovation, so we work with these young entrepreneurs through a 6-month mentorship process, whereby they develop their capacity in terms of trainings, mentorship, and also on the job learning. This is something that you have to learn on the job. As much as you have passion for it, you have to be ready to get into the details through real life experiences. So innovation goes hand in hand with mentorship processes and capacity development, whereby we try as much as possible to equip these young entrepreneurs with the skills required to be able to, for them to participate in the waste management space. Also, finance is a critical factor here, whereby we are looking at as much as there's urgency, but organizations mostly need to scale, and we can only scale through financing. And as much as possible, marketing. Skills like entrepreneurship development, marketing are very important in order to enable entrepreneurs to scale. I hope that responds.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. At least that helps. I don't know if the person that asked the question is actually comfortable with the answer, or if we've adequately dealt with that question. If you have questions, please feel free to unmute your mic, or you can just indicate by raise hand, and you can unmute. I'll give you the opportunity to ask your question.
And just to add on that, as I was pointing out, you can work with, there are several enablers that can support these processes. And one of the best enablers is the policy and regulatory frameworks. Like for a country like Kenya, whereby there's producer responsibility, whereby each producer, be it manufacturer, be it in the chemical space, is required by law to also enforce their corporate social responsibility, so that at least to mitigate. And part of that is also, we support a lot of organizations in realizing their CSR, that is their corporate social responsibilities. And this entails training their staff on proper waste management practices, just reducing, recycling, reusing, and sometimes recovery of this waste that they produce. Technology and innovation goes hand in hand. As much as we are looking at these technical processes, nowadays there's YouTube, there's social media, you can do your research, you can also leverage on other networks so that you get as much as information as you need. Capacity development and knowledge management is also an essential enabler in realizing these programs. Climate finance and resource mobilization. For us in Kenya, we have a program called Program Financing Locally Led Climate Action, which specifically touches on local communities at the grassroots level. So we also advise the youth, or also build their capacity so that they can tap into these climate finance programs, such as FLOCA and Green Climate Bond. Transparency, measurement, reporting, and verification is also a key component in realizing these strategies in terms of waste management areas are concerned. If I proceed, is there any other question that you'd like to respond to? Yes, Eugene, I can see your hand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for your session. It's quite enlightening. you've also answered my question. I asked the question which you just answered. And from what I see, it looks as if there is so much emphasis being placed on creation of the awareness. We want to go into circular economy, but like you said, there is a system where you can go for an on-the-job training for a period of 6 months to equip yourself with the necessary skills you need to go into the recycling, or better still, the management of waste to resource. But I want to know, are these capacity building not place specific? For instance, in your area, per what you said, I know probably it will be only applicable to people in your area. But in terms of this very particular session, you know, it cuts across borders. So I want to know if there is that system whereby there will be capacity building that in terms of building, equipping people with the innovation, where it cuts across borders, that people that are interested, that have the passion, can equally participate, and then we equip, because otherwise, we'll have little to do in terms of climate action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eugene, for that clarification. Like I said, this one is as any business, it takes initiative, and personal initiative remains key. So different programs have different approaches, and for us specifically in our capacity building initiative, where entrepreneurial development, where we develop entrepreneurs, we specifically have 3 areas. That is skills training, then link them to markets whereby already existing entrepreneurs are doing this. So like, for example, as much as we have different spaces whereby we deal with waste management, we have people in the water management space, we have people in the agricultural space. So as much as we are training you on entrepreneurship skills, then we link you to a mentor who is directly owns a business or who is involved in the production process, so that you can get on the job skills, on the job training expertise. And from there now we work with different microfinance organizations, because finance is an important aspect of scalability and addressing this urgent need of youth unemployment specifically. So we also touch on, we link them to the mentors, we link them to finance institutions, and ensure that at least within 6 months, then as an entrepreneur, you're able to stand on your own. And within a year, then you can now employ other people in your business. Because to transform how we live is important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Another question that needs to be addressed before we proceed, because I feel like we've addressed the issue of waste management now. And just to add, this waste, the world really is in trouble, and unless we raise to the occasion, we shall all sink. So it's important to understand that each one of us, it's our responsibility as each one of us to ensure that our ecosystems are restored and ensuring our carbon sinks work. Because as we understand, the land is the largest carbon sink after the ocean, followed closely by the forests. And these carbon sinks are very important in ensuring our lives on Earth are sustainable. So reducing net output of carbon dioxide into the Earth's atmosphere remains a key responsibility that each and every one of us should look into. I see Nancy Dalla here asking how they can join the capacity building program. You can get in touch with us also through Casey Shobo has shared their contact, or you can just look at connect with us through our social media handles. Drop us a message, and we can gladly support each other in terms of capacity development. So small facts. One of the facts that we can look at is land use conversion and drainage of organic soils for cultivation are responsible for about 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Because of drainage, that is peatlands, are currently the largest. Peatlands are just lands that are next to water bodies. So soils can sequester around 20 petagrams of carbon in 25 years, more than 10% of the anthropogenic emissions that we currently experience through the aviation industry, the shipping industry, and generally the fossil fuel emitting. So emissions generated during the application of synthetic fertilizers also contribute largely to the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. So we can also leverage on this through adopting climate smart agriculture practices and specifically vertical farming, which specifically encompasses on a minimum tillage. So with this, we can have food and nutrition security and livelihood diversification, environmental sustainability, and supporting life below water as well, reduce inequalities, that is improved social protection, because we realize that decent jobs will contribute a high percentage in terms of reducing inequalities. We'll also have a decline in climate induced conflicts and consequential displacement of people. Because you are aware that climate migration is one of the biggest causes of people migrating. And if we can really adopt or mitigate this climate change, then we can also ensure that people stay where they are, and this will really support in terms of reducing climate-induced conflicts. So with that, I think time is almost coming to an end. If there's no more questions, then I'll hand the session back to Shobo. Shobo, can you hear me?
Yes. I was just so working on something else here. So thank you very much, to our facilitator. So how capital intensive, would you say? So is this something that an individual can, start? So for instance, if I have an interest in starting an enterprise that is converting plastic waste to finished products, how much would I need in terms of capital? How do I go about that? I know you mentioned something about finance and all of that. Is it something that just one person can do?
Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, and it starts with, like I said, it just starts with understanding our environment. And like any other program, any other project, you have to plan. You have to do your own needs assessment, understand the market, and at the end of the day, look at what is around you. If you are dealing with organic waste, then just stay in that space. It's an entire value chain, and from community sensitization, from advocacy, and all the way to actual program implementation. Those are different ways anyone can be involved in these processes. And it's all about looking internally, looking at you, looking at your strengths, capabilities, and what you are good at. Like I said, it's good to employ bootstrapping approaches. These are approaches that are within us. Every one of us has different capacities. Every one of us has something to offer. And it's just about leveraging on your strengths and working with your environment. I see another good point here whereby Lynn is saying that community education around waste categorization is necessary to ensure consistent supply of plastic. This is very key. This is very key, and segregation is actually the biggest challenge, because as you can see, when you want to when you're dealing with these waste management organizations or individuals, you realize that it's important to separate your wastes first of all. Yes, Leon, please ask your question. I can see your hand is up.
So someone asks, yeah, has a question. So Lynn Muggle, please, you can unmute your mic.
Sure, I've done so. Thank you for the opportunity. This is, yes, I'm calling you from sunny Cape Town. And I work in the waste ecosystem. I've been doing so since the beginning of this year, so still quite green in that space. Yes, I mentioned that, community education is paramount, not only from the point of view of cleaning our communities, but also from the point of view of saving the environment, creating livelihoods for people who may be unemployed. So there are additional benefits. Something that we have in South Africa, and I'm not quite sure if you have it in other African countries already, is something called ERP, where companies are compelled to set up organizations, non-profit companies, who collect money from the corporates. That money is then used to develop projects. So I'm not quite sure if you guys have that legislation in other African countries. But in terms of South Africa, that is something that's kind of was served as a catalyst for growth of the recycling industry. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for that input. We're just talking about the enabler and the policy and regulatory frameworks being a huge enabler to realizing our corporate responsibility. And like I said, most countries have a producer requirement. As a producer, you are a manufacturer, you are also obligated to, this one is called carbon offset projects. You are obligated to support carbon offsets projects within your environment or within your country that assist in reducing, or rather decarbonizing, the carbon that you're producing. And this is an area where carbon markets really come in. You're looking at carbon credits. As a producer, you have to buy carbon credits to allow you. It's a very gray area, because as much as we are trying to mitigate, but we understand that not everything can be realized overnight, or even Rome was not built in a day. So producers have a corporate social responsibility, and as youth specifically, we urge youth to tap into these opportunities. You can be a consultant in your area. All the areas that we touched on: disaster risk management, food and nutrition security, water and the blue economy, forest, health, manufacturing, energy and transport. You can just be a consultant, approach these organizations, and start a conversation, and also show what you can do in terms of enabling them realize their corporate social responsibility, or if you want to call it ESG, economic, social, and governance, that are aimed toward carbon offset projects.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll leave. We're about to end the call in a minute or thereabout. But a question just dropped in my mind. So for most of us, we are trying to be, proactive. Most of us are currently local climate, champions, and we are surrounded by this pollution. Whether it's plastics that find themselves in the drainages or inland water, and of course the result is flooding and some of these things. So what would you advise me, for instance, if I'm surrounded by landfills and a lot of waste, how can I take steps to address waste, pollution in my, surrounding, in my environment? So I want to speak from the perspective of project management, and M&E person, and what would I need to do? Something proactive, practical in that sense.
Thank you so much. This is a collective responsibility. It's a collective responsibility, and depending on the environment you're in, there are several things you can do. That is create advocacy. You can also mobilize resources through, I believe everyone has something to offer, like I always say, in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge, in terms of expertise, and other resources. So as a champion, it's very important to understand your environment, understand people around you, because no action can be achieved alone. So just leverage on the available resources. That's the bootstrapping approaches we are really keen on, and have a clear plan, execute your plan, monitor and control your plan. Yes, and achieve desired goal at the end of the day.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for that response. Special thanks again to our facilitator. He's done excellently well. He's one of us, and that's why I said that he's our project, right? Please, let's give him a round of applause. A Zoom round of applause. Let's use our
Thank you.
emojis and all of that. So really appreciate that you've come through, with this. And beyond what we can say in this session, let's find materials. I dropped a material in the chat box on one of the a lot of those waste materials that you can use or that we find commonly around us. That's tires, motor tires, processing it and using it to do really, really amazing stuff. You agree with me that with the economy of most African countries being in the informal sector, we actually need to develop our vocational skills, so that I mean the importance of having this vocational skill is that wherever you find yourself, right, you are you can serve as an entrepreneur, right? Because you already know how the groundwork looks like, and you can also then leverage your formal education, to be able to build a business out of it, right? So today's session is over, but it's really not over, because by tomorrow, same time, we will be learning more about, and this is more like an information session where we are going beyond what you usually know. I mean, those very common topic areas to areas such as technology. I'm not sure a lot of us, and I'm sure probably for quite a number of us in the youth age brackets, are quite conversant with different technologies, these days, the AIs and all of that. And you find out that whether you like it or not, AI is here to stay. As a young business owner, as a young entrepreneur, as a young environmentalist, you need to be aware of these, things. I think I came across just special technology during one of my postgraduate programs, and I was amazed at how you can use your knowledge of geographic information to guide your decision making in terms of the kind of crops, expectation of preparedness for disasters, especially when you're a farmer, right? You can use your knowledge of geographic data to make health policies. I mean, some of us here are versed with public health, and especially in the area of epidemiology, and things like that. You can also use geographic information in relation to climate change for planning business, for conducting your business research. For instance, the facilitator made mention, severally about the need for undergoing or undertaking a proper market research. So if, for instance, you stay in an area where a particular industry is likely to boom, there's no need for you to use waste that would not serve that purpose there. So if, for instance, where he stays is such that they need a lot, say for instance, a school, right, where they need a lot of furnitures, for students, if you can convince the industry around there that you can harness this kind of waste and then convert it into eco-friendly materials that can be used in their industry, that can be used in schools, then you're in the market, then you're in business, right? So tomorrow's class, we are going to be having Messi Akitola Okwemikpo, is a geospatial analyst, and he's going to be taking us through the various ways that you can use geospatial technology and all of that, and where we can get some of these skills from, how we can use this data to kind of position our MSMEs, that is the micro, small, medium enterprises. Thank you very much for being a part of today's session. This is the first day one. Tomorrow we are going to be concluding it, and I would want us to go ahead on social media to share our insights. Try to use the official hashtag for the program. It's hashtag #0carbonAfrica. 0carbonAfrica. Should you have questions concerning what we've discussed today, please do not hesitate to send those questions or comments to 0carbonafrica@ac.org. We thank you and appreciate your presence in this session. Please do have a fruitful day ahead. It's bye from me. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Shobo.
Bye, Murray.